In this video, we're going to factor the following quadratic expressions. Now, typically we can do this using a method called decomposition, but as you get better, you want to start developing techniques to factor these by inspection. And to do that, there are hints buried in the question that you want to identify. And we're going to go over a couple of them as we do these through inspection. So the first thing to look for, and we think of these as clues or look-fors, is we look for cases where a is equal to 1. The reason why we look for situations where a is equal to 1 is that the only way then to end up with x squared is to have x times x. So that means if we are to factor this, it has to be x, and it has to be x. So then from this question, what we know is that the product is going to be 24, and the sum is going to be 14. So again, one thing you can do to help you with this is just to write down all the factors of 24 and add them as you go. So factors of 24 are 1 and 24, and if we add those, that gives me 25, so that's no good. We could get 2 and 12, we could get 3 and 8, and again we can add these as we go. 2 and 12 is 14, 3 and 8 is 11. And then what we do is look and notice, well, the sum here is 25, so that's no good. Sum here is 11, so that's no good. Ah, the sum is 14, perfect. So then we can quickly just put right in here x plus 2, x plus 12, and we're done. However, it might be a little bit more complicated if we end up with a product which is negative and a sum which is negative. So again, we start off, we notice here that a is equal to 1, so we know right away this is going to be x, then x. But the next question is, well, I don't know if this is going to be x plus something, x plus something, could be x minus something and x minus something, could be x plus something times x minus something. And the answer is in the sign of your product and your sum. So if we look here, our product is negative 24, and our sum is negative 10. And what I know is that the only way to get a negative product is to multiply a negative times a positive is the only way to end up with a negative result. So that means that one of these values has to be positive and one of them has to be negative. So now the next step is I need to find the two values. So I can think of this, again, just like before, two numbers that multiply to give me 24, but add to give me negative 10. So now it's a little different because I need one negative, one positive. So I could have negative 1 plus 24, and that's going to equal 23. So that's no good. I could have 1 plus negative 24, and that's going to give me negative 23. But here's the clue in this. Since our sum has to be negative, that means the larger of the two values must be the negative value. So that means I can very quickly reduce the number of things I have to test, because that means that negative 12 plus 2 gives me negative 10, which is perfect, but there'd be no need for me to check 12 plus negative 2, because 12 plus negative 2 is going to give me a positive value, and since I've identified that my sum has to be negative, the larger number has to be the negative value. So the second look for is check the sign of your product and sum.